I'd like to try and demonstrate that if you can control your grid and snap and size of your symbols, you can make, and the positioning in fact of, say, garden bed areas on the snap grid, you can make life fairly straightforward. Imagine I want to put some patterning in this garden bed area outlined in green here, and the patterning is similar to that you see in the bunch above. So we're not interested in symbols that reflect the plant species, we just want to really accentuate the colour and banding planting here. So if I select a symbol up here, I can right click and copy it, pick it in the middle, and just come down here and put one in position, then another, another. And can you see how easy it is to position these symbols into the garden bed? Now the reason that it's easier to position the symbol is I've moved the group of entities here and I've snapped the midpoint of the garden bed area onto the grid. So I've moved things and attached it to the grid. The grid is 230 mils, so if we go to, hit there, if we go to our drafting settings, can't quite get there, take the grid off, drafting settings, I can now get there. You can see I've set the grid at 230 mil, so I'll cancel from there. So now I've got a band through here and 3 other bands of the same size, but this symbol, I'll go in there and just edit it. I've tweaked it slightly so that I've made the radius a multiple of the 230. It's 460. I'll close that editor. So can you see that I can get that really almost artist palette arrangement by getting the grid and the snap settings to work for me. This symbol here is also in the same vein. It's a multiple of 230 and I might want to stamp it in here. When I've got them in, then it's a matter of drawing some lines between each to indicate the planting bands. One other aspect that might interest you is if I select the symbol and go into the edit block and pick this symbol here and go to colour, it's currently colour 72, but I could say select colour, go to true colour, select a true colour, and I could pick up a different shade of green by just clicking in this zone through here and then pick solid colour and add it. Sorry, you've got to do it in that order, and then I can add that solid colour to my custom colours and I can OK it. So now when I close the block editor, that you might be able to pick up, that is a subtle shade of green that's different from the one down here, which is colour. Let's get into this one. It's probably the same. It's colour 72. So let's close the block editor. So the colour of this one is just slightly different. So we would pick it, we'd turn on our snap and turn on our grid and just put it down, copy it and move it around. You can see the grid might cause you trouble as you move around here, and you can always take the grid off. Sorry, it's not the grid that's causing the problem, it's the snap. So you can take the snap off just temporarily, coming around here, and then you put snap back on again, which would lock you in. So that garden bed area has been divided up into a series of panels relatively easily by using the snap and grid and drafting settings. Well, we now have a good opportunity to put some shadowing on to accentuate this design. So that's done by the shadow tool. We're asked to select the object, so we just wrap a box around there. I'll hold my shift key down now and remove the lines that represent the edge of the garden bed. So they're now removed, and so we can right click and we're asked for a shadow angle. The default is -45. I'll leave it at that, and then we're asked to input a shadow length. My preference is just to go click to the outside and then move down a little and just visually indicate how big I want the shadow to be. The default at 0.2% will work reasonably well. So there's our symbols all shadowed, and that has of course far more impact when you go to print. Well, I've created a new layout, and let's just have a look at that layout. And you can see that all looks pretty fine, except that the symbol here, which was white on the previous screen in the model, is now black, of course. So we ought to change that, and that's easily done. It's just a matter of selecting the symbol and go to Edit Block, and we'll change this from a color by layer to a particular color. What we're after, of course, is some sort of color that's close to a white, but maybe with a greenish tinge. So we'll head up here somewhere, and we can choose one of these very pale solid colors there, and sorry, I've got to do that again, don't I? And we'll add that to our custom colors, and we'll OK it, and then close that block editor. We get that slight difference. Now let's have a look at what it's going to look like on the sheet, and we've got that paley green, which in my view is much better. That's close-ish to white, but is much better than the dark black. So the shadowing shows reasonably well. We could experiment, in fact, with shadowing the garden bed edges. Let's do that, and we'll start the shadow tool, and I'll pick the edges. Start again. Repeat the shadow, pick the edges of the garden bed, and shadow angle 45 the same. We'll make the shadow length, we'll go click, and let's have a look at that on our layout. Doesn't really help us much, does it? What it's done, of course, is done an offset there. You might find that useful, you might not. So I hope that gives you some idea of the convenience of experimenting with snaps and grids and symbols that match the grid settings.